Did you remember all the words? You got all the words?
She's a little ahead of
I just got a
Oh,
little
you're
ahead.
okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I know them.
Hey. We were,
I just made sure that's all.
we were lagging behind, is probably what happened. Can you call the roll call?
Sure. Mr. Steinberg. Here. Mrs. Rorich.
Here.
Mr. White. Here. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mayor Whittington.
Here. We'll open it up for public comments on anything that isn't currently on the agenda. Do we have anybody in the audience that has anything extra? All right.
Public comments, you said?
Public comments on anything that's not on the agenda.
Oh, I don't know if it's on the agenda. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
All right. Or
Thank you.
All right, so then we'll move into the agenda. It looks like we have one addition that will put in new business, right at number 8, the RFP for design and engineering services. Anyone have anything else to add to the agenda? Look for approval, motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Look for approval, a motion for approval of the meetings? Or meeting minutes?
Motion. Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll look for the consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything out of the consent agenda for more discussion? I'd look for a motion then to approve the agenda, a consent agenda.
Motion.
A second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, consent. All right, moving on to the public hearing. Would like a motion to open the public hearing, allow comments?
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
All right, we have a first, how about a second?
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're opening the public. So what we would like you to do is, if you want to make comments, read something or something, please step up to the podium so the folks at home can hear. You have to be really close to the microphone, unfortunately, or very loud. So, you want to start us out? Perfect. Can you give your name and address and?
All right, so my name is Sally Comfort, and I live at 245 Oak Drive. So as you all know, during last month's meeting, there was a significant amount of information that was shared about my property. Intentional or not, a fair amount of the information was either exaggerated or just plain wrong. In the interest of progress and constructive conversation, I will not be addressing each of these items. However, you've been provided with an insert in your meeting packet sharing with you some information on the benefits of pollinators and the risks our ecosystem and food supply face due to the rapid destruction of pollinator habitats. The information included was sourced from several sites, including the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, which operates the Lawns to Legumes program. Lawns to Legumes is a nonprofit program that aims to increase habitats for at-risk pollinators in residential settings. Prior to the construction of my garden, I consulted with the Lawns to Legumes staff, attended webinars, and reviewed countless documents on their site. I then proceeded with preparing the space using one of their recommended methods. I procured seeds from the Minnesota chapter of Pheasants Forever, purchased established plants from Edenvale Nursery following staff recommendations, and included several plant samples from my mom's garden just a few blocks away. Progress started slowly but surely. Several of the seeds we planted grew into beautiful plants and flowers, and the garden has come alive ever since with several bee varieties, small birds, dragonflies, and butterflies. My family and I have spent countless hours working on this space. In fact, just before last month's council meeting, we installed a 36-inch wide mulch path on the side of the garden that aligns with the moors. We added that mulch path also into the middle of the space, as well to intend to continue to add mulch pathways around the other property borders. These efforts will continue to improve our accessibility into the space for management of the area. And as a side note, we have always had direct access into the garden through a gate built into our privacy fence. Over the weekend, Councilperson Rorich and I met with a local prairie grass expert, Henry Panowich. Henry is a current member and a past president of a local prairie enthusiast group. He provided incredible insight, recommendations, and offered ongoing guidance throughout the construction and maintenance of our native grass and pollinator garden. While Henry's expertise is in establishing and maintaining natural prairie, he did share with us that the preparation method we chose for our space was not what he would have recommended. He indicated that in removing the sod and tilling the soil the way that we did, we essentially woke up various weeds and less desirable grasses that were previously held at bay by the turf grass. When this happened, many of our intentional plantings suffered and had become overrun. Please remember, we followed the guidance of Longs to Legumes, and their guidance wasn't wrong. Because as with everything, there are differing opinions on methods for accomplishing a task. Henry suggested we take substantial action to give our space a makeover to allow our work to be more fruitful for years to come. This process will take time, years in fact, and that is key. This was our first year. We learned a lot. We learned what works, what doesn't, and what we can do differently going forward. As Maya Angelou said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. With that said, our intent is to do a substantial clean out of the area yet this fall. Next spring, we'll be effectively starting over in much of this space while maintaining the mulched areas already installed. We will also maintain in the area, in the center, there's perennial bulbs such as tulips, irises, and hyacinth, as well as coneflowers, daylilies, and black-eyed Susans, all things that bees love. We appreciate that the council is charged with adopting a city code that aligns with the state statute without infringing on it, and we would appreciate due consideration of our current efforts as well as our future plan and overall intent. We would like council to consider code modifications that are fair, reasonable, and attainable so that others can feel encouraged to take on a project like this on their own property. I've been heartened by the positive feedback we have received in support of our efforts and also encouraged to see that Councilperson Rorich just this weekend installed dozens of bee and butterfly-friendly plants and flowers in her numerous landscape beds. I don't know if Edenvale has plants left. She went whole on. Her project and ours will have tremendous positive impact. Thank you for your time.
Mayor Whittington City Council, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did get a message from somebody watching live that they can't hear, so they do want people to go to, sorry, to the podium.
Right, he even talked about there's differences in heights of the prairie grasses, so he talked about making a distinction for, in his recommendation, recommending lower prairie grasses, because that way they don't grow to such a height that they start to collapse under their own weight. So he made some recommendations like that as well. I didn't notice in other ordinances if they created that deciding, the difference between the two. They seem to be more general.
Yeah, and that was one question I asked both Henry and even his wife, being a retired lawyer, or attorney, is if we could put in there height restrictions, or if to get away from that height restriction, it's just putting in that you have to mow every year between a certain time. And I specifically asked Henry from a native grasses standpoint, how does he feel on that? And he said, no, you should absolutely not mow every year. It should be every 3 years mowing it down. So I think that's where there's some, okay, then how do we address the code or the ordinance on not having it too high? And that was where some of the conversation was of learning for me from a professional that has, 38 acres of it or whatever, and does the district and St. Peter, very involved, versus residents that have to live with it or maintain it. What is appropriate, and how do we keep it to say, we want the short grasses in city limits without, can we put that height restriction on there or not? I'm not getting a clear answer, and that was gonna be one of the questions I had for the attorney is, without saying you have to mow it every year, is height restriction on there, or is it more that we can just list that it is recommended that in city limits it's short grasses, not tall grasses? So kind of how to address that piece. And I think, without speaking for them, they learned a lot on what can be changed and what looks clean and good, what doesn't, and how it takes time over the course of 3, 4, 5 years. Doesn't happen overnight. And I know the same thing will happen with all my plants. They're gonna look terrible between now and next year until they actually take root. So that was one of the questions I had for our attorney is, without having to enforce mowing when it might not be appropriate, how do we still enforce that height, disregarding her property just in general, that other properties don't become, I noticed one in Regency that it's almost to the roof line. And is that weeds or is that native plantings? And is it intentional? Is it not?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's some of those
Yeah.
questions.
I think there was also a lot of conversation about what we consider to maybe be short is, we're used to turf grass in just about every inch of our lives. And so, he talked a lot about some appropriately sized kind of short grasses are still 18 to 24 inches tall. These will never be the height of turf grass. And so if people are expecting that, then I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about that. And so that was why, like Beth said, she did kind of hold his feet to the fire a little bit about what would you recommend, and he kind of just kept motioning to about that 18 to 24 inches of height, that's still considered a low height natural native grass.
No, native grasses and ornamental grasses can get quite tall.
Right.
And out of hand. Okay.
Well, and I think most of it is vague because most cities aren't going to have the personnel to go out there and say, oh, that's tall grass, that's short grass, that's a flower, that's not a flower. So, it's vague for a reason.
Yep.
Because we can set anything we want, but if we don't have the right people to go out and look and tell us what's going on, then what's the point?
Well, I totally agree with that, but the other thing too is making sure that these get started out to where we don't have neighbors having issues. So that, setting that groundwork to, understanding when, you're gonna do it, what your restrictions are, and, as you live around it, what should you expect, right? So, I would have a hard time expecting, looking at my backyard and seeing 6 or 7 foot, plants that aren't trees. We're hoping trees are bigger than that, but yeah, so anything that we do put together still has to fit within the state statute, so that's gonna be the fine line we walk. Well, we aren't looking for any answers today. We're just looking for some input.
The other, and I don't know that we necessarily talked about it, or I asked within the professional, but the other question I had specifically for our attorney is, it's very clear what a noxious weed is, right? I mean, the state defines that. What's not clear, though, is what is considered a weed, and we would normally just kill it off or mow it down, and what is allowable under the natural grass landscape policy. Example, ragweed. It's not a noxious weed, but it's just an annoyance, right? Or it's an allergen or stuff that way. So, or as they claim it, potentially problematic to one's health. So, how do we look at those that aren't categorized under a noxious weed, but should be protected under something else, or where do we fall on some of those pieces that you can't say, well, it's problematic to one's health, so cut it down, because you could say that with some of the trees or some of the, because there's allergies everywhere. So I don't have an answer to that piece, but I know that was one more piece that kept coming up.
So the plants that aren't noxious but are in that category.
That would be considered a weed.
nuisance.
Or a nuisance piece. And I don't, our ordinance isn't clear on that, besides anything over 8 inches needs to be mowed down. So I guess I'd look for guidance on that piece.
Jennifer, will we be having a community forestry person working with us anytime soon?
Unfortunately not. The funding was removed for that position, so that's really unfortunate. This would be a perfect project for them to help with.
So what did Henry say about every 3 years mowing? Did he have a positive outcome or outlook on that, or he was
Yes.
in favor of that?
We'll pause for.
So, yes, in short, there's a few different ways to kind of go about either managing or bringing back to life these native prairie areas, and that's kind of that's the distinction to make too, right? As far as which route you're pursuing. Is it more of the native prairie, or is it more of the pollinators? But I mean, they even use in large areas, they'll use fire to come in and deplete an area and have it, regenerate after that. So yes, mowing is a fruitful effort for sure.
He said a year was too short, right?
Correct.
Did he say, would 2 years be fine, 3 years? 3 is what he recommended?
It was the 2 to 3. It was kind of, it's crop dependent to some extent. How did the seasons go? What was did we receive decent rain, snow cover, that kind of thing? It's difficult to pin down. But that's why, he exists, and that's why his organization is, they host public events and they come out with volunteers and look at property and do the work too. So we can also look to lean on them.
I definitely think we should have something about mowing in there.
Well, I mean,
Because,
yes, but again, how are we gonna know the date of the mow? Are we gonna write it down and send it to city council and say, next, in 3 years from this date, you have to mow? I mean, that's, again,
We could.
another thing where it's,
It's subjective.
even if you're out there all the time managing your own stuff, like you said, the birds, the wind, it'd be very hard to keep that up, maintained over the course of several years. So I think a mow every 3 years would also help your argument of saying, I am managing it. Every 3 years, I'm taking care of it, I'm starting new, I'm doing my best. I've done the research. It would definitely help your argument in saying that, yeah, I am managing, I'm maintaining my natural landscape. And as far as, when we're gonna do that, maybe we should just have something, you come in like, hey, I plan on doing, a managed landscape in my area. This is what I wanna do, this is when I can mow it, just a check-in with the front desk. It won't cost anything, but maybe just making it official with records, but I think having something about there being mowed every 2, 3 years, it should definitely be in there in some regard.
And there are some cities that have chosen to do a permitting process, like a zero-cost permit, but it's more notification and communication, I think, than having a lot of teeth to it. So it does spell out, this is the intent, maybe this is the size and shape and location, but it's not getting into the weeds for a terrible pun opportunity there.
I think something like that would be great. You
And
know,
I-
also,
as-
whenever
yeah.
they come in, we can give them some information too that we just find on the internet of that Minnesota, like, hey, this is, so that way you're not going completely blind, you know, here's something that could help you start your process, and, I don't know, I
Yeah,
think,
lessons learned, like, don't till up the soil.
Well,
I
and
appreciate
like
you
I
coming
said,
in here too.
it depends on what your outcome is, what you're looking for. Because, yeah, if we were going full native prairie, or tilling it up was the wrong move. But that wasn't our sole intent for the place. You know, we wanted a mixture of different things and different heights, because it is a large space, and so we wanted to make the most of it. So, yes, lesson learned.
I appreciate you coming in, giving your spiel on this, and learned a lot.
No, And I do like the, at least ways to get to the middle easily, you know, for maintenance. I think that goes back to, you know, what's your plan to maintain it, right? So my plan is that I have these walking paths I can kind of, because like you said, no matter how hard you work, there's gonna be noxious weeds in there all the time popping up, so.
Right.
They're
and
just
it's-
under the surface and then they come to the top.
Right,
So-
yeah, yeah, and as far as getting into, and I mean, my mom has a bit of a hobby with gardening and things like that, and so, you know, I was able to kind of lean on all three of my parents, and it's not a matter of, this is not walking through a forest and so difficult to get through. We're not afraid of doing the work.
Okay.
It just, we gotta, you know, we need to kind of regroup. Did you have something?
I know that you're looking at an ordinance for, you know, you're looking for an ordinance that includes it, taking this on to just be residential, but I think you need to look at commercial as well. I live on the north side of the tracks. The railroad has never trimmed anything, and that is all weeds over there. So I think if we're gonna clean up Eagle Lake and make it a pollinating friendly city, which I think we need to, I mean, we have to be better at taking care of our earth. I think we have to look at that part too. I think, you know, because there's businesses that let it go too. I mean, that's just the way it is. So if that could be something that you include in that as well, that would be great.
Well, right now, I think that falls within our turf grass kind of process, right? So, the railroad is the railroad, as I've been told. And that comes back to being a small community. We could have a full-time person going out and doing weed patrol and taking a look as we grow these gardens, you know, all these little nooks and crannies, which I love to have within the community that are being overgrown and not maintained. So balancing those pieces out is where we're trying to be, so. Just looking over my notes.
So I mean, I looked at probably a dozen different, because as you guys know, I'm stuck in this middle point, right? In awkward situations and things like that, not only with where I live, but also being on here and can see different perspectives. Unfortunately, hear different stories. Doesn't matter to me. It does matter to me which one's right or wrong, but in the end, it's trying to get something that fits citywide, not a sole property, right? So did the research to find out what are other communities doing, what other ordinances are there, and I kept coming back to Mankato, North Mankato, specifically because that's our area. That's what people are going to compare us to them, not us necessarily to a Rochester or to a Bloomington, Minneapolis, any of those. But I did see several different communities that did have permitting, and I kept going back and forth because permitting does add more time, not only to residents that have to do it, but also to city staff, that we don't have that resources to do already. But the one that I did like, and I do still feel that permitting is good, was from the Board of Water and Soil Resources. Because it just kind of laid out step by step, and not that city staff has to go through and confirm every plant that they're gonna do or where things are going, but it says that they did go through and make sure they're following city ordinance. They looked at the noxious weed list. Did they get the right site plan? So it kind of put that effort back on the resident to know that this isn't something that you're just gonna say, I don't wanna mow it, so I'm gonna do it. It has pretty big steps behind it, so that if it's not being maintained, city staff can then go back and enforce it, rather than having to take a half a day like a normal building permit and really examine it. It also gave my opinion, gives the list then of what residents are intentionally trying to put in, whether it's a native grass, rain garden, pollinator, any of those that are acceptable under the state statute, that they are intentionally doing it. It's not just someone that's letting their lawn go. So when that call comes in, we can say, yes, they are, or no, they're not, you are out of city ordinance, fill this out, do this, clean it up, and you have this many days to do it. So we kind of have some teeth behind it. But the effort is on the homeowner or the resident doing it, not on city staff per se. And then that would also give a date to when it was put in and when it's expected to be mowed down then at that point.
I agree. And I think a permit process, make it as easy as we can,
Yep.
would be beneficial.
What, when did you find that in?
It was one that Sally put in too, but it was the Board of Water and Soil, so the BWSR sample permit. I also found one from the City of Crystal and some other ones, but that one was the cleanest and easiest, and then I think we can adjust some checkpoints of things that we would want them to at least say, whether they did it or not, I looked at this list. And it would just have some teeth behind it if they aren't doing what they're supposed to. We can say, well, you said you did and you signed off on that sheet, so you now have so many days to fix it.
I think signage could go a long way too, and they talk a lot about it on that page. They actually, when you sign up and kind of register with them and work with their program, they actually send you a sign that just kind of, again, it's another call out that it's intentional, and it kind of piques people's interest, I think, too. So, like, I have that, but I put it on the park side because I thought families may see it and kind of be curious.
Okay.
I do think it's important though, as well, when reading them, because when I went into this, I was naive with it. It's like, why would anyone want to make more work? You can just go out and mow, right? I get the pollinators, I get saving I get all that, but man, it's really easy just to go out and mow. But reading real deep into all of the benefits to it of putting in there, a lot of them had what is the purpose or what is the intent, so that not only the city is saying this is why we want to do it, but other residents can read it and understand that this is why a neighbor would want to put it in. So kind of having some of those bullet points of the purpose, what are definitions, what types are allowed, who applies, to your point of, is it commercial property, is it not? And Mankato, I think, had that very clear of who's allowed, what zones, residential, commercial, what districts, any of that. What the requirements are, having setbacks, I think, is key. Maintenance of it, and what happens if you're in violation.
And I think the hardest part of this is the nuisance part, right?
Right.
The reason why we're here is because one thinks it's a nuisance and one thinks it's not. So, I mean, I don't know a good way
No.
of making that happen.
No.
I don't know if a bigger setback is needed. I don't know if, obviously the maintaining part is a huge part of it. But that's kind of the reason why we're here. So, and that's probably the hardest part of this whole thing.
I agree, and I think it's a lot like chickens, right? People love the idea of chickens, and they got chickens and found out how much work it is to maintain this, right? So I could see where we could get a lot of people that, oh, this is gonna be great, I'm not gonna have to mow. And then all of a sudden, so that's why I kinda love the, you gotta mow it off every 3 years because it's a lot of work.
And again, only if that's appropriate. You're not supposed to mow a bee garden every 3 years. So like I said, we will have to get granular on that. The areas that are destined for prairie, then absolutely they need to be mowed down. But other things like that are intended for those pollinators, some of those things are intended to only actually be kept to about 18 inches tall throughout the winter if it's more of a stock style plant, so that bees have a chance to winter down inside the stalks, for instance. So mowing it all the way to the ground would actually be harming the space instead of improving it.
So we'd also, but if you mowed it in the spring, it may not, that kind of thing. So we really would need to make sure that people designate what they're doing.
Right.
And then that kind of kicks off how it should be maintained. Okay.
I think that the stickiest part is that gray area. I mean, a noxious weed is very clearly defined, right? We know that. It's that non-noxious, but considered a weed to most residents. And is it or is it not? And I can't answer that, you
Well,
know?
I think just in those two words I come back to in the beginning, intentional and maintained.
Yep.
Some people's intentional maintained is you got a row of plants and they're trimmed and others are, you know, it's those kind of things, so.
It might also be helpful to make sure I understand what you guys deem to be an acceptable setback. It's not just about size and distance, but, you know, I did express that I've already put in a 36-inch wide path on one side, and it was a substantial length, about 90 feet or so. Is that acceptable, or does it need to be grass between the two properties, or should it, you know, be some kind of hardscape or something like that? Clearer understanding of that would be helpful.
I think we'd have to make sure that we have the setbacks defined, I think, within there, so, yeah.
And I think there were other cities that called out, you know, if you're on a corner or boulevard or something like that, that there were much stricter height restrictions and setbacks, because you can't impede traffic, of course, if a person can't see around the corner what they're turning onto. It's no different than planting a tree too close to the road, so that seemed reasonable to include as well.
Do we have any more discussion? We want to kind of, I think we've got a lot of things to kind of, you know, and this is a start, right? So we'll put together, I'll put words in Jennifer's mouth, she loves that. We'll come back with an example. So we'll put something together and then we'll have a couple public hearings, kind of flesh that out, run it by the lawyers and the attorneys and make sure we're within the statutes and things like that. So I don't, you know, this year is this year, right? So we're probably looking at, you know, hopefully by spring. So as people kind of start thinking about these things, we'd have something in place to kick off the new growing season. So I guess if we don't have anything more, we can close the public hearing and move on, or if people have more questions, discussions, things like that. All right, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Person second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, now we're on to the scheduled guest. I think you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Vicki Holthouse. I'm with Abdo Financial Solutions. I work with a team of about 30 people who specialize all in day-to-day accounting and finance support for cities, counties, school districts, special districts. No audit on our team. It's all strictly operational support. We do things like rate studies, long-term plans, helping cities select and implement software, providing support if they have interim vacancies. But a couple of the projects we enjoy most are the process evaluation work that we do and the training component as well. So tonight we submitted a proposal to the City Council for consideration to help you take a look at your current reconciliation processes and help migrate the city to utilizing the module within the system for reconciliations, as well as some technical support, catching up on reconciliations, and then providing training on the new process of how to run those reconciliations within the system. We find that anytime the accounting system has an integrated reconciliation process, that tends to be the most efficient process, and also just helps mitigate risk overall. But it's helpful to know that city bank reconciliations are a lot more complex than your standard small business. We have a lot of integrations. We have data coming from different places. There's a lot of different timing issues with cash receipts. And so it happens quite often that cities have to kind of create processes to kind of work through that and work around it. And so our hope is to help you evaluate that process and then bring it back into the system. I think you're considering a couple of different proposals for this type of work. And so those proposals include both the technical support, completing the reconciliations, but the piece that I think really stands out about ours is both the migration to a better process as well as the training component. So what I shared with your city administrator is we really like to customize our services. We want to support cities where they need us, as long as they need us, and then help you kind of take things and go from there. So what we'll do with our training is we use what's called a gradual release of responsibility. We use that internally as well as externally when we provide client training. And it's a 3-step process. So the first month you watch, the next month we watch and are there for support. And the third month, usually the client takes that new process and they operate it independently, knowing that we're there by email, video chat, whatever it takes to help if things go off the rails. So that's the proposal that we have laid out for council this evening. We anticipate that from start to finish, we'd probably be working with you through the end of January. Ongoing support could be there if needed, but that's typically how long the process takes for other communities that we've helped support with the same. And with that, I guess I would just pause and answer any questions that the council has for me on our proposal.
I would like to know one thing, if it's okay, Vicki.
Yeah.
One of the members of her team was actually a former deputy city clerk of mine who I know is very good with accounting, Jessie. I don't know if she'd be the person on site here.
Jessie would be the person to come on
Okay,
site, yes.
so I have the utmost confidence
Yeah.
in her
Yep.
work.
Jessie would come on site and she would bring an associate from our team as well because they would actually support virtually ongoing just with any catch-up work. But she would kind of be steering the project. And they are just wrapping up the same project for another city in northern Minnesota in the next couple of weeks, so the timing is perfect.
So what accounting platform do we use?
Banyan.
Banyan. And obviously you guys are familiar with that?
Very well versed. It's the most highly leveraged software in this state with most of the communities where we work with. I would say about 70% of the communities that we work with use Banyan.
And one of the things I kind of like that is a little bit different between the two proposals is you're proposing not to create a process outside of Banyan. It's all within
To move it
the
into the
functionality
system.
of Banyan.
Yep. Things can go awry with that module, right? And so, like I said, it's not uncommon to have to create systems outside of the reconciliation module, but I have full confidence we can get you to leverage the
Majority is
module.
in there. Okay. It is something that we've been struggling with for quite a while. You know, we get caught up at the end of the year. We don't find any issues, thankfully, but that doesn't mean that's, you know, we shouldn't be more responsible and do that on a monthly basis and make sure everything's proper. Plus, it makes the end-of-year cleanup, end-of-year audit and all those things go a lot smoother and obviously, and cheaper. So, we, you know,
I think we're long overdue to just help staff get some good processes and bring it back into the system. And I mean, that'll help for future planning. I just think it's a good move and something that's probably just really long overdue. And something we talked about on the phone too were the GASB standards and governmental accounting, and it's complex, and it's getting more and more complex every year with the new changes that come out, and it's hard.
Yeah, especially the last few years, we've had a little bit of a break from new implementations, but the amount of things that your team has been asked to do for year end the last few years has grown substantially. The standards are very technical and very difficult. So we've augmented a lot of communities with year end support and projects just like this. I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight, so I want to be brief and then take pause so you can move on and make your decision later in the meeting. But I just want to call out a few things that are in the scope of the work so you know very clearly what we would be doing for you. The first piece, as Jennifer mentioned, is we will come on site to do a one-day assessment. It may not take a full day, but we will explore both the reconciliation process and then other accounting processes, because sometimes it's your other processes like cash receipts that cause the reconciliation timing issues at the end of the month. We'll provide you with an executive summary of recommendations. They could be efficiency recommendations, control recommendations, how to better leverage systems recommendations. So we'll provide an executive summary to the council of our findings after we complete that process, working with your staff. And then we'll begin the process of providing that technical support to prepare the system for you to start doing the reconciliations inside of it. We'll provide assistance catching up any reconciliations that might be past due, because it's better to learn a new system when you're not treading water trying to catch up on past work. And this will include, if needed, this will include a reconciliation of your 2024 audit numbers to ensure that we're starting with a good base to work from. And then we'll provide that training that I talked about, which we anticipate to take a 3-month process, going through the process repeatedly month over month for 3 months. And then finally, sometimes we find there's just issues reconciling cash balances by fund, because again, when you're working with the city, you're dealing with anywhere between 5 and 20 different, essentially, business operations within one accounting system. So things can get off and it can get challenging to figure out. So we'll provide any technical support that's needed to just ensure that you're reconciled and ready for your 25 audit.
Any other questions?
Does the estimated cost that you gave us, does that include, or just to be clear, that includes reconciling any of 2025 that has not been reconciled? And is there something that you would say, okay, it's been 10 hours, that's what we figured, we're capped out, now it's going to be an additional expense because we went over what we thought it was going to take?
That's correct. So the estimate that I provided, so it is a time and materials quote, right? So the estimate that I provided is based on the work we've done with other communities. So to take, for example, the city that we just finished in northern Minnesota, they originally asked us to come in and reconcile all of 24, get them set up in the system, train their staff. They came back and said, hey, that works so great, catch us up for 25. So we were very clear with them all along the way where we were progressing with budget. And we said, that's great, but we're at about 75% of budget, so a change order of X might be required to complete the work, but by then we knew exactly how long it was taking us each month to complete, so we were able to accurately calculate for them what any additional work would cost. I don't anticipate any additional work right now because we know the scope pretty clearly, and so that estimate includes everything that I just talked about in the scope of work.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me
Maybe
tonight.
I should also note too, if it's okay, that we are gonna have the whole office, work on this, so we have our other position too, so we have cross-training at the same time. Perfect opportunity to do that, which is just something else that's really hard for small cities to sometimes tackle and get that cross-training, so that's another value that you're not gonna see when you're reading through this, but that's something I'm really excited about.
Absolutely. And when we provide that training, particularly if we're providing it virtually, we'll hit record on Zoom. You've now got AI notes for the future. You've got videography, so if you ever have to transition it to a different person, you've got that training captured for a future date as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on in new business, Fox Meadows Housing Development.
Mayor Whittington, City Council, did you want to get that taken care of while Vicki is here, and then go back to the other guests? We could do that in case there's any questions. Do you like to jump ahead to that?
Sure.
All right, so on page 89, I won't read through my memo. Obviously, Vicki did a great job with her presentation. I know she's answered all of my questions. We've talked multiple times, and I feel very confident in the services that will be provided. So as a staff person, after reviewing both proposals, talking to the different firms, I would recommend that the City Council strongly consider the proposal from Abdo.
This past year, we spent a little bit more money on our audit because it took us that much to kind of get things together because all the new statutes and fun things like that. I'm not an accountant. I will never be an accountant. I'll never work as an accountant. But as this, what I've seen within both proposals was that we would get to a place where, one, we can do this quickly and easily every month, and then we can go into the audits every year in a much better shape and keep the cost of those yearly audits down, because the yearly audits are quite expensive. And we want to make sure that through the yearly audits, we get a clean audit letter, just because that affects our bond rating and all those kind of things. So as we do all these big projects, it keeps our costs down. So I think everything we can do within reason, we should, as we move forward.
Well, and one difference, if you don't mind me adding in, the difference between Abdo and the one from Eide Bailey, they didn't reference bringing it back into the system, and I think that is absolutely key, that we retain the ability to understand and, train our staff so they have a good foundation on how to manage the process, because I feel like we got some help this last time around, but when those spreadsheets are created outside the system and somebody else created them, it's not helpful to our staff if they're not even trained on how to tie everything, and we have multiple accounts. It gets very complex, and
There was
so.
two things that I liked. One of them was that, and the second one was that we did as much as we can within the system that we already pay to manage and maintain, right? And so,
Right.
those were the two biggest differences I saw within the two proposals. One is, the whole goal is to get it back to us and get us on our way. And the other is it's within the system, so we're not needing to maintain another side system to kind of make, do those other kind of things, so. So with that, any other questions for either parties? Or
Is
any
the
more?
intent then to go, your recommendation, I guess, too, would be to go with Abdo for the accounting stuff, and then is Eide Bailey still, would do our audit at the end of the year then?
They would still do our audit. My hope is that through this process that we'll be able to clean things up and be ready to move forward and not have to have these reoccurring issues. And I think having a little separation between the firms, I guess, to me, I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I've worked in another city, it's been a number of years now, but with Abdo, and they do a wonderful job on the auditing side as well. So I have the utmost confidence they'll do a good job.
So would your intention be, if we approve it, to get started as soon as resources become available?
Absolutely. And while this wasn't a budgeted expense or something that we planned for, we did not hire another position, so we've actually cut back on our staff. So we do have some, money that unfortunately we'll have to dip into that, but so we do have some money to cover that. So.
Can you remind me, for the 26 budget, do we have money set aside for
Yes.
this process too? I mean, because
Hopefully we won't have to use it, but yes, I did put it
I
in
mean, I would
there.
expect
Yep.
some, at least, questions being asked and things that come up that we would need to
Yes.
tap into it. Okay.
Yep.
No, I like that too, because it pulled some of those funds that we were looking to spend next year back into 2025, which we have some leeway in because we didn't fill that position all year. So it alleviates some of our bonding issues, not bonding, but our cash
We have good
issues
staff, and I
next
think investing in this process will help us invest in our staff too with training. So I think it's just long overdue. So,
year. And it also helps with the 2025 audit.
yep,
I like training everybody.
me too.
Very much so. Any other questions? Look for a motion to approve going with Abdo and having staff sign the contract.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
First and second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Now we're back to the second presentation. Ms. Wise for Weiss. Well, I'm gonna get Whitington all the time, so.
Hi, my name is Mary Weiss. I work with a nonprofit 501c3 called For Pets. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about TNR, so thank you for having me. TNR stands for Trap, Neuter, Spay, Release. It's more of an effective and human way to approach the increasing numbers of community cats or owned cats that are spayed or neutered. It's become a mainstream in communities because it's a benchmark of human care for animals the right way. In the past, it would be people driving off from a nuisance call, dropping a cat off out in the country, shooting a cat or dog, poisoning, so this is a more humane way to do it. We have been practicing TNR in other local areas such as Janesville for the past 4 years. We've worked with North Mankato, and we've worked with Mankato. It's become a lot of calls here in Eagle Lake, and we do this all volunteer. I'm the most active of our group, and I'm getting older, but I enjoy doing what I do. So, last Diane, I've been working with Diane. No, you're fine. I've just been working with Diane, who is very active at benches and active with helping cats in the Eagle Lake community. We were looking at numbers, and in the trailer court alone, in the past 3 years, we've had 99 cats, either removed, spayed, neutered. What we do is focus if there's kittens or pregnant mothers. If they're too far, we don't abort the kittens, but we put them in foster, and then we adopt them out or take them to other rescues, such as benches. 4Pets works right along with benches and mending spirits, who are great rescues in our area. 99 cats in 3 years at the Eagle Lake Trailer Court, and then other areas of Eagle Lake. I came up with another probably 15 cats that we've rescued. We have 5 clinics a month. We travel 2 hours to go to a low-cost spay-neuter clinic. It's all volunteer. We do a lot of fundraising as a 501c3. We have some grants and a lot of donations, which helps us continue our work. The shelters right now are overwhelmed. Police are getting called. By doing TNR, I do believe that it helps. I believe there's less police calls to nuisance calls. The average lifespan of a feral cat is one that's not used to humans. Somebody has either tossed it out, they had kittens, the kittens become feral, and they form what they call a colony. But the average lifespan of cats outside is 5 to 7 years. And we mostly focus on helping cats. We do help people with low income when they get a dog and they can't afford to spay and neuter. We'll either set their appointment up or try to offer some money towards their spay and neuter. This is the worst year I've ever seen for cats. I don't know about the police calls, but it's the worst year I've ever seen in southern Minnesota. And all the rescues will tell you the same thing. They're overwhelmed, the staff is overwhelmed. So going on to tell you about, I've worked in Janesville. We went to the city council meeting and we looked at euthanization of cats, because if the police pick them up, it's more to euthanize a cat, and shelters right now won't take cats. They're not impound contracts, very few are anymore. So by doing $40 per cat in Janesville, and they bill twice a year, I put down the address where the cat was caught or trapped. I get the community involved, whether it's fundraising, just so they're aware of the problem situation. North Mankato, I got a call, was it last year or the year before? Colony had formed over in Lower North off Lindale and Center Street and Tyler in that area. We trapped 27 kittens, 9 adults, and we got them to rescues, we got them fixed. But imagine if they weren't caught, it would just be, and that's what I'm finding at the Eagle Lake Trailer Court. It's been nonstop. And it's not just people I know like Diane that was at the trailer court, it's other people in the trailer court. I've tried to find out where these cats are coming from. My first thing is there a farm close by? But I truly believe that people are just turning cats out at this trailer court. Can't prove it, but so it just makes it really hard. So that's what I'm here tonight to propose, to see if you guys would be interested in helping with the financial burden of cats in Eagle Lake, specifically the trailer court. And I did get a copy of the letter from Regency about, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, about what they plan to do, or how it's just enforcing it is another thing. So, any questions at all for me?
Any
Could I
questions?
ask,
Go
could I ask a
ahead.
question? Mary, how much did you say it is per cat? Did you say $40? Okay,
40 per cat, and I look at what it would cost euthanizing, I'm 150 maybe, at least, to euthanize a cat, a problem cat, or, and that's if you can get into a vet, because the vets, we're short of vets in the area, they're overwhelmed, they like high-paying customers, so, it's hard just to get like a feral cat in. Even to get spayed or neutered, that's why we travel 2 hours to Wilmer, to Forest Lake, to Minneapolis. So 15 to 20 cats each trip. So.
Mary is very humble. I think she has, just in talking with her on the phone about all that she's done in Eagle Lake, I think it's just incredible how much she's helped us. And I mean, if we think we have a problem now, I think we'd have a much bigger problem on our hands had you not been helping. So thank you.
Yeah, think of that many cats having kittens or reproducing. It would be worse. I like to think I make a dent in it, but just when I think that way, I get a call from the police department or the sheriff's office and people asking for help. So.
Yeah.
And I'm getting older and it's hard to find young people to volunteer. So. Anyway, thank you.
Any questions for Mary before she
Should we,
goes?
Mary, what do you think would be a reasonable number if the council wanted to consider setting aside money for what you're seeing in Eagle Lake right now? And I have to tell you, after I talked to Mary, I got connected with her. Actually, it was your neighbor, Councilmember Lewis's, had a cat in their garage, and I was talking to her, and I said, "Oh no!" And she said, "Well, some nice lady messaged me and said she would come and help." And I said, "Is her name Mary by chance?" And sure enough, so I mean, you're really making a big difference in our community, and I really do think we need to do something
And for
with this.
instance, that's a kitten in their garage for 5 days. They didn't know it was in there. They had the door up. Kitten took cover. A block over, we rescued a kitten the week before, and I'm pretty sure they're the same bunch, the same family of cats. But both of them, spayed, neutered, were adopted. So it's a good thing to use it that way.
So going back to Jennifer's question, what do you think
Budget?
would be reasonable?
I don't know how your budget is.
Oh, it's ugly.
Like everybody else's, including mine.
We gotta throw that. No, we want to be responsible, we thank you for all the good work that you've
Yeah.
done. Probably what I'm being told, one of the biggest things on the alternative Facebook page is cats.
Yeah,
So,
everywhere.
I think it's a growing issue. It used to be dogs and things like that, but it's cats. So, we want to be responsible and help out. As, you're obviously doing some great work in our community, so.
Well, and we try to educate at the same time, but it's if they'll listen. I do believe in microchipping, so I always encourage them to get their cats microchipped if they haven't. So if it gets lost, at least they can take it to a vet, or I think, does the sheriff's office have a scanner? Yeah, they have scanners with them so they can scan,
Find out
Mankato
where
they
they go.
do. So. But I usually look for the cat people in each town when I get a cat call and see if they can help me, so I don't have to do the traveling. They can watch the traps. We do provide traps, and carriers, that kind of thing, and make appointments. Yep, Diane's the Eagle Lake.
This year alone, I've taken 15 cats off of my back. Pregnant mamas, kittens, the feral kittens that I've live trapped, and Mary's helping with all of them. And they've all been taken care of.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's just this year.
And when we do TNR,
I think people come and dump them off. I really do. I think they dump
I think
them
you're
off.
probably a known quantity, and that's what's happening.
I think they do.
when we do TNR, what we do with most of them, if they're unowned, we tip their ear. So it's a universal sign that cat's been tipped, it's sterilized, had its first set of vaccines, and, it's good to go 5 to 7 years, hopefully. So with our winters, with, getting run over, things like that, that's the way it is. Where if we take care of our cat right in our house, we're 20 years. So.
So you guys still danced around the question.
Well, if I
Okay.
do math just for this year, I mean, 4 or 5 grand is what I'm coming up with. I don't know if that's.
What I did in Janesville, they gave me $1,000 to work with the first year. So, and we got a lot under control, I think, that first year, but just when I say that now, the phone calls are starting to come in from Janesville. So all it takes is one person moving into town and having kittens and cats and turning them out. And I do believe that's what's happening at the trailer court. I just can't prove it.
Who's worse, us or them? Janesville.
We're better, right?
Right now, you guys are. Janesville was 4 years ago.
So maybe more than 1,000.
Well, and I can
We
always
can't have that,
update you.
can we?
I can always update you guys too.
What's
but
the
I think
number to get us better than
we've already
Janesville?
done a lot. So,
No, I think as we look through the budgets, you know, that's gonna be a focus here in the next couple of months, you know, I think, yeah, at least 1,000, you know, looking to, you know, getting up to that, you know, that 3 to 4,000.
I think I wrote, not to interrupt you, Mayor, but I think when I was talking to you, Mary, I think you gave me a number of possibly over $2,000 for Eagle Lake this year.
This year.
yeah, that would be if I charged you for all these cats
Oh.
this year.
This year,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
don't
I
know if
think
that's possible,
your
but-
number is pretty close, probably what we're gonna.
We've done a lot just this year, and we've got good records this year. Again, I like your accounting stuff because I don't like to be an accountant.
May I real quick just ask a question? Mary, what is the age group for, say, adoption? A year and younger?
Adoption, we adopt them all, even seniors. The thing is, they've gotta be nice.
Yep.
We can't take a feral cat and adopt it out. But what we do is we have a farm cat program. It's called Barn Cat, a working cat program. So if we do have a feral, if it's a nuisance, we've got bird people that don't like cats, they're gonna do something to them, then I try to relocate that cat. But once you relocate a cat into another place, you have to acclimate it in a building closed for at least 2 or 3 weeks, just so they get to know the surrounding. Otherwise, if you let it out, it'll run and keep running, and then it won't have a food source and end up, who knows? So, but
Because
again,
Benches has only been our resource for any stray cats, and yes, they're
and they won't take
overwhelmed
care of-
with them. So you're always our second point of contact, which,
I gotta talk to the Nicollet County, because they think I'm a dog person too, and keep calling them dogs.
yep. And we have, just so everybody is aware that we have identified one problem area. I think out of that residence, we removed 44, and I think they were missing 12. So fairly recent, probably midsummer probably. So I bet some of those were probably coming from that area. So,
That was this year.
yes.
Okay. That's good to know.
Oh my goodness.
They just keep coming though, down at the trailer park. Diane finds them.
I also want to put out on behalf of the trailer court, like, we're willing to work with whatever we need to do to help out, because it is a problem that we are seeing it. And as we did, we put out the letter stating that we want to work with whatever, whether it's helping to do live trapping, finding, rehoming these cats, helping find new places for them to go. We are absolutely willing to help out as much as possible.
Are you the contact person?
I am the manager currently for
Okay.
Regency.
What's your name?
My name is Jamie.
Jamie, thank you.
But I think it was only addressed with the trailer court after there was the complaint made.
Right, right.
Then the trailer court
Right,
stepped out of
but
line.
yeah, we are,
But nobody was addressing it before that. And,
yeah.
okay.
It was, no,
Right.
it was a problem, and
It is.
we
and
do
it's
see that,
So
yeah.
let's,
No blame on one person in particular by any means.
so it sounds great, Jimmy, thanks for stepping up, and then you guys can kind of get together and see
Sure.
what we can do.
The
I
thing
think-
why cats live in trailer courts, because the skirting, they can go
There's a
underneath the
place to go.
skirting, you know, if the skirting's not tight. Abandoned trailers, there was
Yeah.
one trailer down there several years ago that a
Perfect.
bunch of cats were living in.
So I think we'll try to put 2,000 in our budget at least, and then see what we can do as we go forward, you know, with other requesting it. Thanks a lot, thanks for all you've done so far.
Thank you, Mary, thank you, Diane.
Thank
What
you.
about cats that aren't feral? And I say it as neighbors can attest, and right now I like it because I saw a mouse over the weekend in my front yard. But a particular black one that likes to roam our neighborhood all day, several times a day with a collar on. So clearly it's somebody's cat that wants to put a collar on it but not keep it in their yard. How do we handle ones like that, that are clearly owned, just not maintained and kept in their own yard? That our dogs love to sit and bark at, and then other neighbors are mad because the dog doesn't stop barking because a cat is in the yard. So, I mean, it's not just the feral cats, it's the ones that are, correct.
Call Mitch.
I was gonna say too, I think we, and talking with Mary and with Lieutenant Gaylor, we just really need to work on the education component. And, you know, we haven't done a good job at the city side because honestly, up until recently, I haven't heard of, it was always dogs. Dogs are loose. So we try to educate the residents about, make sure your dogs are always leashed. Well, now it's a cat problem. So that's something we've talked about too, is we just need to really ramp up our efforts on the educating, and how to, you know, don't take a kitten, or it's might be cute, don't bring it home and then just decide to set it outside because we're going to have a lot of problems. And I learned a lot myself about how many litters these cats can produce, and I think the average person isn't thinking about that at the time when they think that they decide they no longer are gonna take care of this
like our friend who's
kitten.
like, yeah, I fed it, so I kept it warm, and I'm like,
Yep.
no.
So we will try to do, maybe working with Mary, we'll try to do some, you know, educational efforts, and absolutely we can. Yes, we'll be in contact.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to the next presentation. I'm not even going to attempt the last name after I've butchered Mary's last name, so is Blake here?
I don't see Blake here.
Do you want to
Do you want me to give you a brief
the
overview?
highlights of these? Yeah.
Okay. Mayor and City Council, we were contacted by a party that was interested in possibly acquiring a property that is just outside of Eagle Lake in Mankato Township. The interested party had contacted the city to find out what is the process for annexation and then rezoning. So we reviewed all those processes. However, the individual had wanted some sort of assurances, and as we reviewed with the individual, you know, there's certain processes by law we're required to follow for rezoning for, first of all, I should back up, annexation, then rezoning. So that individual was told we can't give any assurances, but they sure would be welcome to come to the council and address the council. But, so obviously they're not here. You don't need to probably review it any further, but, you know, when these requests do come up, they'll obviously come before the council, and the council can consider annexing in property around the community. And we always want to grow commercially. So in this situation, we had somebody that wanted to demolish an eyesore on a property and put up a commercial structure. However, because of its location, we would not have been able to extend sewer and water, and we would have had to have an agreement with them stating if the city would annex you into city limits, you would not have city services. And, you know, and then at some point in the future, if there were city services available, then they would have to agree to connect. But so that's basically kind of just a high-level overview of the discussions that took place with this individual. If you have any questions, let me know, but no actions required.
Moving on to new business, we took care of the proposal for Abdo, Fox Meadows Housing Development, Phase 2.
All right, Mayor and City Council, we went through Phase 1 with Fox Meadows, and they had an escrow account for the infrastructure, that would be the roads, you know, things that the city acquires once a project is complete, and that went well. Now we're on to Phase 2. They extended Blaze, and there's some other work with that as well. But the total escrow amount set aside that was agreed to was $304,400. Right now we have a draw request in the amount of $228,922.54. This is primarily for the Blaze Avenue East extension. I did review this with the city engineer, and he recommended that we go ahead and reimburse this amount. So what we need this evening is just approval from the council to go ahead and release the amount requested.
All right, any questions, or look for a motion to approve the draw?
I'll make a motion to approve the draw.
We have a first and a second.
I'll second.
A first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Fire Department proposal.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your time this evening. So we are here to ask for your consideration of replacing one of our fire trucks. It's 4312, it's a 1999 Pierce Telesport, it's our ladder. So on page 147 of your packet really starts our information we'd like you to take a look at. Has some information on our current 4312. So again, it is 1999. The standard, we like to follow the national standard for replacing fire trucks for the recommendation. That's NFPA 1911. So in NFPA 1911, they state that, hey, once it's over 25 years old, they really don't recommend putting a lot of money into the fire truck at all. It's just not worth it that they've seen across the country. And so that's kind of the guideline that we're using for our recommendation. And on July 6th of this year, we discovered that there was a crack in the weld at the base of our ladder. It's where the supporting rams, where they do the lifting of the ladder up into the air. We found two major cracks in that component. And at that point, we decided to take the ladder out of service. So it can still be used as a pumper truck, but based on its age, we are recommending retirement of that apparatus at this time. If we move to page 43, excuse me, on page 148, a little bit more on our current truck. It kind of describes some of the decisions on why we're recommending going the direction we'd like to go. So we purchased 4312 back in 2010. We purchased it used, purchased it from Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus down in Alabama. We've been, based on the age of our current truck, but we've been looking into this for a while. Fire departments are really holding on to their trucks much longer than they have in the past, based on how expensive these things are. And based on the current used market, we'd have to spend probably $500,000 to get something that's 20 years old. And so if we're going to follow the standard of 1911, that doesn't make a lot of sense to put that much money into something that's already going to be almost at the end of its life cycle with NFP 1911. So that kind of brings us to the next page, 149. If you want to go into detail on NFPA 1911, certainly that's there for your review. On page 152, there's pictures of the cracks. We were really surprised by that. We've really put a lot of pride into our trucks. We've taken very good care of our truck. It's never been used as a hammer, for example, on scene. It's never been any accidents that we're aware of since we've owned the truck. So we were really surprised in July when this came to light that, hey, there's significant damage, that we should really stop using that. Our recommendations on page 155 starts with a new truck. So last year we started really taking a closer look. We had Pierce come out, they brought a demo truck in July, and so we were able to take it to several buildings in town to make sure this would be a good fit for Eagle Lake. And we really feel like it's a good balance. It's a good balance between the capabilities and what we can do with the truck, but it's also not nearly the most expensive truck on the market. How we would pay for that is on the next page on 156. So we would recommend putting $700,000 down starting in January. The $700,000 would be guaranteed in state of Minnesota. We're required, anytime we would prepay for something, state of Minnesota requires a performance bond. So you'll see the first couple pages, I think the contract was like $1.85 million. There's an additional $5,000, and that's that performance bond, and that's the numbers that are toward the end of our presentation. So the performance bond guarantees, hey, the city's going to be delivered a truck, or we're going to get our money back if we prepay. And by prepaying, we get a discount of almost $60,000 if we commit that $700,000. So the $700,000, that would come from two different sources. It would come from our capital improvement fund that we've been saving for new truck for a long period of time, and it also come from our gambling money, $100,000 from that. And that's on page 180 of your packet. This is from our 2026 budget session from September 9th. Behind the scenes, we've been working on our capital improvement plan really since 2010, and we've been saving money towards this project since that time. We're not asking for any additional funds from the city or from the city budget. We just ask that you follow the plan that we've had in place since 2010, funding our capital improvement plan. So the $700,000 would come from the money that we've set aside, and in the future, the money that would go toward the capital improvement plan, we just ask you to put toward this truck. So what we've done in the past, we just ask that you would continue that. Those numbers are in more detail on the next couple pages, 181. At this point, I would turn it over. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, the things I had to add, I don't even know why I'm up here. He covered everything so thoroughly.
The stuff I wanted to include was more of the reasons why we would need a truck like that. This truck that we're looking at is a 107-foot reach, if I'm correct, right? It's a 107-foot reach. The truck we currently have is a 65-foot ladder, which kind of restricts us quite a bit in our reach for some of the buildings that we need to get to. Take, for instance, 93 Maple Lane. In order to be able to reach the roof on that building, we would literally have to be up in the front yard with the truck we currently have, with a 107-foot ladder as we took it out and drove it around and took it to a couple of different places actually in town. Extended the ladder to see the reach. We're actually able to reach the peak of the building being out in the street. So take, for instance, you're not always going to have the opportunity to drive up in a front yard. There's vehicles parked, there's all kinds of different restrictions preventing you. We won't talk about where squad cars might be. You know, just different things that would keep us from being able to get up where we need to be, right? So there's that. There's a few different places we took it. We took it at 75 Thomas, Connie Lane, East.
So Connie Lane East, that's Fox Meadows we just talked about. So if you go right from the curb to the roof line, it's 89 feet. 89 feet. We would have to be in the law to be able to do any type of operations on a current truck. We look at Oak Drive, just measure the house there, the current setbacks, push the house back a little bit further. That's at 85 feet. So really the horizontal reach is most important with these trucks, not necessarily going straight in the air.
And then there was a couple of other calls that we we needed to be able to utilize the ladder on. You take, for instance, Dave Andrick's place when his body shop got on fire out there. Chuck's Body Shop, we use that a lot for both aerial and egress, which is what we tend to be able to use the ladder for a lot, besides force suppression. That egress, especially in some of these newer places, like you just mentioned, you know, you're talking 3 stories now to be able to actually reach that the third floor window and allow place for somebody to escape if they're trapped inside. It's probably one of the biggest things that we could do with this truck that we're not able to do with the current one that we have. There's been a couple of other things. When there was the fire out at Ginzel's in the elevator out there, we we had to utilize Mankato's truck. Ours just didn't have the reach for that leg that we would have needed. There's WW Blacktop, which I know that isn't in our community, but that's kind of the way all of our little fire departments work around here, right? Mutual aid, we help everybody else out. Everybody relies on each other's equipment as much as possible in order to be able to get the job done. So, you know, WW Blacktop, there was Hanson Sanitation, Whiskey's Meat Market in Janesville. So there's quite a few situations where we've needed a ladder that we, not only for ourselves, but for other people. And that reach is quite beneficial. Like I said, 107 over 65 is a lot.
So we understand this is a lot of money. We take our fiscal responsibility very, very seriously. But we believe this is the right truck. We believe this is at least a 25, 30-year truck for the city of Eagle Lake and our surrounding communities. We believe it's capable of everything that we need it to do. And tonight we'd ask for your support. We'd open up for any questions that you have.
Council?
I guess I'll start with my little spiel. Most of my questions have already been answered with you guys today. I talked to Trent, was it last Thursday night? You know, with $1.9 million, it's a 107-foot truck. You know, a lot of my reservations initially was, you know, do we need a truck this big? You know, I know that we're kind of a smaller city, but I know we have townships as well that we got to cater to. A 75-foot truck is still a lot of truck. And from what I understand, if we went from a 107 to maybe a 75-foot truck, we'd be saving, you know, $300,000 that we could be using towards other things. You know, even with this spiel, at the end of the day, if you guys say we need it, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with you guys on it. But I do have reservations on it if we need a truck that big. You know, especially when we're only 5 miles away from Mankato, to where if we have a rare situation, do we need a longer ladder? They're right down the street. Again, it just seems like a lot of truck for us when I feel like we've been making a 65-foot truck work for the past 20, 25 years. to jump up to such a larger truck. Again, a lot of my questions have been answered, I get it. It just, I wouldn't be doing my job as a council member if I wasn't critical on such a large purchase.
Sure thing. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and discuss the truck purchase. So a little bit about this truck. It is a unique opportunity. It's part of a dealer allocated stock program through McQueen. So it's something that Pierce and McQueen have worked out ahead of time. It's not that, it's a very standard truck. It's something that we don't have a lot of customized options in. And because of that, they're able to deliver it much faster. They're able to deliver it in August, September next year. Otherwise, the timing would probably be like 4 years out. Really be a long-term out. The 5-foot truck is not part of the dealer allocated stock program. And so I had them price that out just to see, hey, in the past it was a big difference in price. Is it still a big difference in price? Because the dealer allocated stock program, it's $25,000. So for $25,000, I was thinking on, hey, what could that be similar to? And to me, it's kind of like a parking lot, right? A parking lot would be a lot cheaper if it was grass or if it was gravel, right? But we really like it if it's cement or blacktop, right? And so there's reasons like that, just like a fire truck. So for the reach is really, really important. Have we been able to make it work? Yes. Does it compromise several things in the fireground? Yes, it absolutely does. And so we would recommend sticking with that dealer allocated stock program. I think there's a couple benefits in there. One, it is a cheaper truck because it's part of that program. And two, the turnaround time is definitely a lot more beneficial for the city.
So you said it was $25,000 difference between a...
Only $25,000.
I think that's a moot point now, as people might say.
I rest my case.
Good work, Nick.
Also, if I could real quick, there was a fire on, right next to the city shop down there a couple years ago. We tried attacking that fire on the 3rd floor with our ladder. We were not able to reach up to where we needed to be able to spray the water from in order to stop the fire from traveling from one unit to the next. We were only able to hit the soffit. We weren't able to get up where we needed to be. With this 107-foot ladder, we would have been able to make that difference. That's the difference between the two ladders.
I think my question is, you know, finances that we have this year are okay, but, you know, as we're seeing out in the world, they're going to be getting a little tighter as we go through the next 3, 4, 500 years. We've got $102 million left on this. Where is that going to be coming from? We're spending down a lot of you guys have been doing a good job of, you know, kind of planning for that. Do we have enough to, when we receive the truck, is that when the payment of the $102 million comes from?
So the payment would be on a 10-year lease to purchase. So the 10-year lease, once it's done, the city owns the truck for $1. So as part of that, the city currently puts away about $160,000, almost, not quite that, every year for truck purchases and truck replacement. We would just like to allocate that money toward this truck. So we think the money's there. The money has been there. That doesn't use all the money that's in the fire truck fund. So we have about $1 million in there. That leaves $400,000 if there's a bad day, that the city can do something else.
Does that tie your guys' hands for the replacement of another truck that might need to come up in the coming years? Or when is the next truck needed to be replaced besides this one?
So the next truck that's up is the Rescue. That would be in 2036.
Okay.
I hate to ask this, does it fit in the building?
It fits in the building, yeah.
All right,
So
perfect.
the truck that we spec'd here is the exact truck that they came with the demo.
Okay.
So they brought it, we tested it, make sure it fit.
You brought it home and
We didn't
from the
have to
dealer
put any
and
holes
put her
in the garage door. So.
All right, perfect. So, any other questions from the council?
So the truck that we're wanting to sell, I think you mentioned like maybe $5,000 we're hoping to get on auction for that thing, so the broken ladder. You said that it could be a pumper truck. Is there something that we could use that truck for as well? Or was just selling it just the best option for that thing?
So it really comes down to space in our current station. We don't have a lot of space in the station. The best way, I think, the best perspective on that is to look at our ISO rating and how much that's going to impact homeowners insurance for our residents. So there is a section from ISO rating that looks at backup pumpers. it doesn't carry that much weight. So really it comes down to, we don't have room in our current station, and there really isn't a big benefit to have it, so.
If we're selling it at auction, it is sold as is, where we are not fixing anything else on it.
Sold as is, yeah.
And that's why you're saying it's like $5,000 we're hoping to get? Because we don't, you were saying that we probably won't get much money for that thing at all, really. For
Yeah,
that.
the telesquirts that are in good operation right now are going at like 15,000. We saw the bids at the last truck that we just sold. The first time we went around, it was at 5. We had a floor at 10. That's the only reason we got 10.
So when it's all said and done, there's zero value in them.
There's not much in that truck. Again, that truck it was a South Daytona truck, so it has 60,000 miles on it. That may not seem like a lot for a consumer vehicle, but that's a lot in fire truck miles.
And engine hours. That engine runs a lot more just like it would in squad car. The engine has to run the whole time where it's on scene. You can't really shut it off because everything that's being used on the trucks is lighting or whatever the case might be. You gotta make sure that truck stays running at all times. So the engine hours is way higher. Three times at least what the mileage is.
So we would advocate, just like we did last year with the turnout gear, the council approved it, let's say in October, but didn't move forward until January. So this is a 2026 budget item. We wouldn't look to spend any money here in 2025, but we would look for the council, what we're asking is you consider to approve this year to get everything moving, but then in 2026, that's when the payments would start.
And you're saying, what's the delivery?
August, September of 2026.
Wow, that is.
It's extremely fast.
Yeah. Any other questions from the council?
Expensive truck.
I think that when you explained it at the budget meeting a couple of weeks ago, it was really well thought out and explained well. And I think that honoring what you guys have done with the other councils in the past too, I think this, as what Deputy Lewis mentioned about the price difference not being really much of a thing, I think that this is the right decision to make at this time before inflation gets to fire trucks, I mean, which it already has. But I think that one thing I like about what the fire department does here in Eagle Lake, just on a side note, is how you have that riser for this is going to be replaced in 2040. This is going to be replaced. That's a very helpful thing to have. And it makes me feel confident in making an informed decision to make a motion to get the truck.
So is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right. We have a first.
I'll second that.
We have a first and second. Any more discussion?
No, my reservations were answered. So no, I don't got anything.
We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, pricing for 2025 sidewalk repairs. We got the fall to do it, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, in your packet, you will see a quote from Clint Adams Concrete for mainly sidewalk on the sewer. A lot of it is uneven and trip hazards and things like that that need to be replaced. So I was requesting that we move forward with that bid, and he can have those done by the end of the month, so.
And we have the budget? I always have to ask the budget question.
30,000.
Kind of getting kind of close here.
It's very mathematical, and that's part of what takes so much time is, you know, going through with these contractors and, you know, looking at, okay, these sidewalks are the worst. Now, how much can we get, you know, to maximize as much of that money as we can? So.
Good. So,
I'll make a motion to accept Clint Adams' bid.
first, we do
I'll,
a second.
I'll second.
Nick's got the second. Any other discussion?
The only thing I would say is, I have no problem with all of this, but if we can get it done more in the summer. I get it takes time, but now that we're pretty much to the point where everybody's gonna be moving inside and more shoveling snow, hopefully. I'm, every year I feel like it keeps happening later and later. I don't understand why we can't do it so that it's done more midsummer versus late fall.
Makes shoveling easier though.
It does. So that's my only comment.
All right. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. So, it looks like you're up again?
Yeah, so attached in your packet is a, estimate from Melcher's Tree Service for, he put ash tree removal, but it's any tree removal. When I talked with him, we talked about kind of like making a contract, you know, and maybe doing, you know, getting a set pricing for, you know, 3 years. So I think that is, from talking to him, that's his price for like the next 3 years on tree removal would be, is the $9,500 for 10 trees to be taken down and then 10 to be trimmed. With that, I would ask that we have a little bit of leniency on, you know, being able to get a few more trees taken down. I know this year we have probably 15 that could come down that are really ugly looking. So, but this gives you the, you know, the basis of what we would be getting for our money. And
Okay. So I know, you know, I think there's several trees down in the park we need to start getting through because they're, you know, they're in the later stages. And now they're starting to do some bad things, like leave branches hung up in branches kind of things. So do we have an idea where these 10 are, or that's something that you guys will determine? You know,
back when I brought my first estimate or request, we had a bunch picked out. Before he comes and does them, would probably just go around and just reevaluate and see what is the worst and whatnot. And I know, you know, down at Lake Eagle Park, there's probably 30 trees that could come out that would be beneficial to the park to come out. But we also have, like Fraze Park, there's a few trees up there that are in need of being gone.
I'd like to focus on the parks if we could, just because we have a high concentration of littles there. I hate to see anything happen there. Well, we're looking about $2,000 a tree. Is that, my math is mathing, right? Oh, 1,000. See, my math wasn't mathing.
It'd be like, I think he figured about $400 per tree to trim,
Okay.
and was it $800 to take down? And that's,
I think grinding stumps too.
yep, and that's estimated, so, you know, the price could fluctuate a little bit, you know, if a tree, yeah, if a tree is bigger than that 25-inch diameter. And
So the question I brought to both Administrator Blumland and Andrew Hartman was, like we have with our technology services with CTS or other services, we're contracted with them. If something comes up, we expect them to be here, right? And in the past, we've had good relationship with Plug, or we've had good relationship with Melchers, where they have came and helped us after some emergencies, when they haven't had to. So I said, do we have, or can we, is there any appetite anyways to say, okay, we're gonna allow, you know, is it 15,000 a year with the expectations that there's gonna be at least 10 or 12 14, whatever that number is of trees coming down, but this is what we're gonna give you, or allot to it every year. And already have it in, so that we're not, again, getting to fall and just starting. Some of those things can be happening throughout the summer as they come up, or on an emergency basis. It kind of has a little more teeth for melchers to say, yeah, we will be there, we do have your back, because you have our back too. So,
If we've already got them designated and known, they can fit them in their schedule.
correct. And then will that also save some cost too, because they've already mobilized into Eagle Lake and can do, it. It was just a question, and I know from another small, sitting on where we sit too, it's nice to build those relationships, and then in return, a lot of times, discounts or, we'll trim an extra tree and it's not on the books type of thing too. So, not that they would do that, but just whether there was any appetite from the council to be able to say, like we do with some of our other services, in more of a contract, an allotted amount, and, have that moving forward.
And with Melchers, we've had a good working relationship with them since I started. And Nick there, that's now taken over, I've known him for a long time. And like with these storms that we were supposed to get this summer, and, I would just text him, hey, are we good if we're, if we need you, you'll be here right away? And it's always, yep, just let me know. And we've had the conversations of, is our city the priority, and to them, like if there is a windstorm that comes through and things like that, right now we're their priority, as far as, okay, you called us, now we're gonna come.
So and that's what you're talking about, more of that contractual arrangement, that's, yeah. It sounds like we've got a good partnership with them now, even without a 2 or 3 year contract. But it'd be nice to kind of cement that a little bit.
That was just kind of a thought. I'm not looking at hand-holding and going down and knowing exactly what tree is coming down, or, with EAB and all of that stuff. Like, I would hope that both Melchers and our public works staff would look at that, address the trees that need to be done, and take action, specifically in the summer before we have a massive limb hanging over a park or playground equipment and stuff. So,
So do we want to do something with this and then look for 26, 27 contract with them?
I'd make a motion to approve this tree removal requested amount as laid out.
First, anyone second?
I'll second.
First and a second. All right, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're getting close. We're getting closer. Number 6, follow-up on a request for 2 parties to purchase city land.
Mayor and City Council, this won't take too long. I just wanted to let you know that following the last City Council meeting, that there was some discussion where we talked about 2 parties that were interested in acquiring land by their respective properties, and after consulting with Blue Earth County and the city attorney, and then talking to staff and also getting feedback from the council, you guys gave some good points. It's not looking like it's in our best interest to sell either of the parcels that were looked at with interest. One of the parties did ask, though, for the city to look into how much the property owner can come onto city property and help with buckthorn, because it's very invasive, we know that, but all over. And so I did reach out to the county. I'm just waiting to hear back from them, because they said they didn't recommend any major clear cutting in that area. So I'm just trying to work with them to get a plan and try to figure out what we can do, because I understand the property owner's concern as well. So I will, I guess my purpose in bringing this up tonight, it is not recommended this time that the city entertain those inquiries to purchase land, and I just want to give you an update on the reason why.
Will you be reaching out to the 2?
Yes. Yep.
And do we need a city goat?
I think that would be a wise idea. Yes, thank you.
They love buckthorn, I guess, right?
No.
All right, for the next one, number 7, MMUA membership.
All right, Mayor and City Council, when we went through our recent thorough personnel policy review and update. One thing that was identified as needing to be updated was implementing random drug and alcohol testing for our DOT employees. And so we have that current language in our policy. Now to manage that process, it's something that we're looking to contract with MMUA. It's Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association. They do drug and alcohol testing. They have a consortium. So it's recommended that we contract with them, and they'll handle all the paperwork as far as scheduling the random testing. And it's a requirement we have to comply with, so really don't have much of a choice here. But we have our agreements, very standard. Many cities work with MMUA. It's very common. And again, it's coincides with our language and our policy. Just need a motion to approve that.
Look for a motion to approve the contracting with MMUA.
I'll make that motion.
We have a first, all right. We have a first, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, others, Eagle Lake Helping Hands.
All right, Mayor and City Council, I'm gonna go back to one item that I added. I apologize for tonight.
Write it down.
Nope, that's okay. So the city received funding for design engineering for the pedestrian connectivity project along Facade 27. And it gets to be a very complicated process with their federal funding. I think I've explained that to you guys all before. But the good news is we keep moving through the process, and I've relied heavily on DOT to provide guidance, and that's been really helpful. But just to summarize here, so the next step in the process was we had to release requests for proposal. And so I put that out, I published it in our newspaper, I posted it online, League of Minnesota Cities Marketplace, and we got one proposal back. It's from Bolton Mink, and they're very familiar with the project. So I'm not sure if the city council has to take action. I tried to reach out to Blue Earth County, and I was not able to speak with the engineer, but I talked to his assistant engineer, and he's gonna follow up with me tomorrow. But to err on the side of caution and keep the process moving, I would just ask the city council to accept staff's recommendation that we go ahead with Bolton Mink to do the design engineering. It will be covered by the Carbon Reduction Program grant funds. But because it's federal funding, basically the county is the conduit, and they have to, or the fiscal agent, if you will. So I'm assuming it's gonna take Blue Earth County board action, but I think it's good that the city can say city staff has reviewed it and recommending it. And there is no dollar amount attached to this. It's just requests for basically qualifications, but they call it an RFP. So,
Look for a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
We have a first, how about a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and seconds. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. Now we're back on track. Eagle Lake Helping Hands.
all right, we'll make this quick. You guys have the flyer in your packet. I'm very excited about this concept that Lieutenant Gaylor came up with. Eagle Lake Helping Hands, it's just kind of summarize, it's a community initiative that brings law enforcement, youth together, community service organization, the Lions Club, and our goal is to promote volunteering with youth, working alongside law enforcement. The Sheriff's Department has done a phenomenal job. I didn't say that I can't say that word very well, but you know what I mean. They've done a wonderful job in the school and building strong relationships with our youth. And so I think this is just another kind of natural step that they get to work alongside them and just try to inspire them to give back to their community as they, grow up. And so I think this is just a really exciting opportunity. We're working to get people to sign up right now and to find properties that may be in need of assistance. So with that, that's all I have for that.
I want to just say one thing. I think it's great to have the positive interaction between the youth and the law enforcement. I think that's great, and I think it was great for Lieutenant Gaylor to come up with this project. I hope we have tons of volunteers, but I'm sure we'll be putting it out on our sites here soon. So No, I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that I know the scouts did way in the past, and it was great fun, actually, with a bunch of kids and rakes and mud. So, it's perfect.
I think, I know I don't want to talk long-winded, but it's just so refreshing to hear all the youngsters refer to our deputies by name, Deputy Lewis, Deputy Bergman, Lieutenant Gaylor. I mean, they just, that connection, that first. No, they know you, Deputy Lewis.
You
Yes,
get
they
that?
do.
Where's
Every time we
Lieutenant
drive by
Gaylor
your
at?
house.
Oh, hi, oh, I thought you were Lieutenant Gaylor, bye.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll work to change that. So,
All right.
but keep up the good work.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right, next item, I just wanted to bring to your attention, I received a complaint about Regency of Minnesota, that's the trailer court here in town. We've been kind of working through some issues with, overgrown, unkept lots, items that are considered nuisance, cat overpopulation, just some other concerns in the park, and so Lieutenant Gaylor, Public Works Director Hartman, and we sat down. I think we've had a couple meetings with the Regency, with the regional manager, then also with Jamie, and trying to kind of work through some of the issues. And it's definitely a work in progress. We've would like to see a little more proactivity in getting these issues addressed, so that we don't have to be on that complaint basis and having to always be contacting Regency. It'd be nice to not have to have that. And so we're working together. And when I mentioned the regional manager, her name is Kim Stumney. She's not able to be here tonight, but I think she might be available on phone if necessary. Okay, perfect. And perfect. And Kim's been a great person to work with over the years. I've been really happy to see in the last couple of years, I think maybe 10 or 11 units have been removed, and that was something that,
We have another one, that 108, that one on that corner, we have another one that is going to be hopefully taken down sometime soon. We're trying to get things to remove that one as well.
okay. So that's something we've been working with the park on, and just really, I know we just had a recent issue with brush, and, we had sent a notice and it didn't get done. So we're just hoping that, through the working together, that we, can just get compliance sooner rather than having to keep sending notices and.
Future steps on the
Yep.
brush and stuff.
Yep.
Personally, it got piled up from all the residents in the area thinking that that's where I take my brush, when they should be removing that stuff themselves off the property. So I'm going to be sending out notices saying, hey, this isn't just for anybody. It's a small thing for when I'm mowing the lawns, I can set it there, when I get the time, I take it out. And I had been taken out several times, but it just, so many people piled so much on, it just gets so much to catch up. It's a lot for one or two people to just take small trailers worth over and over and over again.
Right. Well, and I think what we've talked about and stressed in our meetings too is that, as expensive as it is to purchase a new home, to be able to see the trailer park bring in some newer trailers and be able to kind of clean up some of the existing stuff, that's what we want to see happen. And so we just really need to, I don't know if we need to get an agreement or something we can set up. We're not there yet on all the solutions, but I just wanted to let you know, we received a complaint. We're trying to, Lieutenant Gaylor has been wonderful to work with, and we are trying to make progress, and it's not happening overnight, but we're hopefully gonna be able to, work with all the parties and try to get some action taken. It's an important thing for our community. As people come in, we wanna make sure that, we have new development cropping up around there, and we want it to look nice, and we want the people that live in there to feel safe and to not have to deal with that when they're taking care of their property. So
It's not looked good in a long time. I grew up there, and back then, everybody kept up their lawns, they were held accountable. People aren't being held accountable at all. They don't care. There's unregistered vehicles there, I've seen kids
I think what we did a few years back to be able to get, those, a dozen or so, maybe it wasn't even a dozen, maybe 10 to 12 units out of there, we had worked with the city attorney and law enforcement, and we just had to keep after it. So I think we're to that point again where we need to go through, if the Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office is willing to work with us, go through there, kind of make a list of the things that would be, you know, deemed nuisances, work with our city attorney and what we can do, and work with the park. I don't, you know, I do appreciate Kim working with us, and they want to be a partner, so we have to continue working together, and we have made some progress, but I agree, there's things that need to be addressed, and.
Just her presence down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on the phone with her numerous times, and she had said that she's down there at least once a month, and if that was the case, then it wouldn't look like it does. So, and I
Yep.
don't know how busy she is, I'm
Yep.
not saying she's not a busy gal, but I
Right.
just think that things could have been addressed a lot sooner than a formal complaint, so.
Yep, absolutely. No, I agree with that, and we need to stay on top of it because it's a, you know, makes a big difference as you're coming to town, and if it's not being taken care of, people, you know, might think twice about wanting to live in Eagle Lake, and like I said, we owe it to the people that live there that are taking care of their property to try to help where we can. But knowing that there's limitations too, and that's why we need to consult with legal counsel, because as much as we want to go in and clean things up, we don't always have the legal right to do that either. So it's kind of just got to figure out what, you know, what our recourse is and work
Nick, did you have?
to try to get a solution.
Yeah, kind of going back to like, you know, the cats a little bit ago, you know, it seems like a lot of the issues coming from Regency, I kind of feel like they should kind of helping foot the bill of this. Kind of come back to some of the accountability as well. I mean, if people are getting charged, I don't know, $10 a month an extra, or what, I don't know, something, maybe they'll start looking out a little bit harder, policing their own stuff. You know, I don't know why we should be footing that entire bill when most of the problems seem to be coming from one area.
I don't think the city should either. I really don't.
I think my frustration is I feel like every month we come back to, they're great to work with, we're making a little bit of progress, but if my yard, or I had 12 cats running around my yard, there would be action would be happening immediately, right? Or within the 10-day allowance. On day 11, they'd be out there mowing, they'd be out there taking. So I feel like and maybe we're not, and I don't know all the legalities against what we can and can't do, but, or you guys are saying you're taking pride in it, but every time I drive by, I don't know if it's literally native grass that's taller than the fence or the weeds. And we're being very critical of a resident on things that may or may not be maintained, but those in that place aren't doing it either, or there's a massive brush pile between units and the fence by Autumn Winds. And, you know, so at what point is we're working on it, and action actually being done, and having some pride in that area? I mean, my kids laugh when we drive by, and they're like, hey, the toilet's still on the porch. So I totally respect and appreciate all that you guys are doing and any meetings that are being had. But meetings are one thing, and action and change is something different.
Well, I think too, not to interrupt you, but something I think that's important that we don't want to overlook here is we don't have an active compliance officer that's in the sheriff's office. They don't have to help us. We contract for law enforcement. They've been very good to work with this, and they help us with it. But at the end of the day, it is the city's responsibility. And the problem is we don't have a compliance person that goes around unless, usually it takes a complaint. I mean, we're a complaint basis. You know, that's how we operate. And, you know, I just don't have the time to drive around town. When I go out for my runs and my walks, that's when I see things and I try to get things addressed. And I know Public Works tries too. But we might just have to work with the park and get a schedule. I don't know what the answer is right now, but nobody is, if we're gonna do it to them, we're gonna do it to everybody in town too. Right now, we operate on a complaint basis because we don't have a full-time
do you guys
person.
are you happy with what it looks like right now?
No, absolutely not.
So, I mean, in my mind, when it's privately owned,
Yeah, that's right.
why aren't you guys taking the action before it's coming, even getting to the city's standpoint, right? I don't know how it goes. I mean, is residents complaining to you and then you aren't doing anything, so then they finally say, screw it, and complain to the city? Or, I mean, just like we're talking, again, not going back to the native grass, but how does that violation step piece process work, and to where it's gotta be daunting to have to deal with the nuisance complaints and the cats, because I do agree, I'm willing to put within reason, whatever we need to get rid of these cats. But it shouldn't be the city's responsibility to get rid of the cats when it's a problem within your guys' complex. Whether they get dropped or not, you guys aren't addressing issues on a timely fashion. Cats are being brought in and left in unit. I mean, 44 cats, that is completely unacceptable, and how it gets to that extent. I don't know, I just feel like it's like, not my problem, let the city take care of it, or wait until someone complains, or vehicles aren't moving and there's so much weeds growing around, no one's complained. Well, frankly, I haven't wanted to be that person that sits and complains to city staff every week on what next nuisance piece we can keep doing, but for me, it's just like, take pride in what you guys have there, and it could be an amazing area when we're talking lack of units or lack of housing. There's a lot of empty lots in there. Let's get more new units in and revitalize that. And I know we talked about that probably 4 years ago here, of how can we revitalize that area in affordable houses or units, but no one wants to move into it.
I'm not defending Regency, but I will say they've gotten rid of a number of units. They did, and so. No, yes. Yep, 100%, yep. 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 Yes. Yep. Well, and it could be, like you guys are saying, the perfect opportunity to, yeah.
When I drive in there to go to my mom's, it's embarrassing. It's flat out embarrassing. I wouldn't put a trailer in there to save my life. If, not right now, I wouldn't. And that's sad to say, because it could be a good place.
I've lived there for over 50 years, and it's the worst it's ever been, and I don't want it to close down because I like living there. I just like it. I'm happy there. And I'm an old lady, so.
I guess for me, I appreciate your guys' efforts. I hope that we can continue to have more improvement made quicker. And driving by it every day to get home for the last 10 plus years, I'd love to see the revitalization come to fruition and continue bringing in new, taking out the old, figuring out some of those things and having that helping hand from the residents that do live there, so that that can be another asset versus bringing in more high-density multifamily, bringing in things that are actually affordable for people to move into. So that's, I guess, what I would have to say.
No, I think so. I don't know if we just kind of come to you and Jamie and say, these are our expectations, what we'd like to see, and see how you can progress and work with the residents on getting there. The relationship's been improving since I came on the council. Before, a couple of years ago, there wasn't a relationship between the city, and so that's better. We made a little bit of progress, but now it's, like you said, the branches need to be picked up, the ditches need to be mowed when they're dry. We'll take care of that next year. That's been, that's some of the things. And then, especially as we go into next year, when we start looking at the new pedestrian path that goes right in front of there, we want to make sure that's kind of a nice place to kind of come through there. So, you have more pull, if you will, with the residents. We have none. So just getting getting them to, the toilet is kind of a fixture nowadays, which we wish wouldn't be, but, here we are with that. But it's one of those things that, we'll be working with you more closely, I think, as we go through and push.
And just real quick, so I respect all the, like the abandoned trailers, or the trailers that were, kind of needed to be removed, but now that there's vacant lots, I think it kind of all starts at the top, because the abandoned lots are not being maintained, and then once the individuals living there see the abandoned lots in the condition that they are in, I think they feel like they maybe don't have to maintain their properties because the abandoned lots or the management is not maintaining the rest of the areas up to, I guess, the standards that we're kind of expecting. So I get it that there's only two of you. It's kind of pretty overwhelming, but if we can kind of, I guess, put in some effort to maintain the areas that are empty, and I think maybe hopefully the residents will kind of take your lead on kind of making their properties look more presentable. If management can do the same on, I guess, the rest of it, I think it would have that potential. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just, my vision when we first got over here was just to try to clean it up, and I think it's getting worse. So, I know you guys have the abatement clause in your city ordinance. I mean, that's a possibility, but I mean, it's going to put a lot of work on Public Works, but just know that you do have the abatement clause, and if you have to utilize that to, I guess, help maintain it, then that could be a possibility.
It's all on you, Jamie. No, I totally agree, you know, if you see, you know, the lots that aren't, there's no trailer on, if those are nice and presentable, I think that'll flow into the rest of the park. It's a great place to start anyway. Like I said, you know, we're gonna be putting about $1 million into that road here next summer. That's, right, is that where we're kind of landing with the new?
So it sounds like maybe after kind of listening to everybody, what we should probably look at is a memorandum of agreement or understanding of some sort, and just try to get, you know, as many of these things addressed, and it's gonna take proactivity to get it. You can't just have an agreement and not follow through with it.
That to me would tell you the expectations we have for, you know, there's the residents' responsibility, and then there's the rest of the park, right? So having those expectations in writing, and kind of the follow-through, you know, if it's not met, you know, we go down through to the abatement priest where we step in and do in charge kind of thing, so.
Yeah,
I'll work with the legal counsel and.
I think it's a pretty daunting task. I think it needs to be taken a step at a time, because there's a lot there. I mean, I agree with everything Lieutenant Gaylor said. You know, we got these trailers that get removed, and the trailer's gone, but now the lot, there's still left behind metal and scrap. You can't even mow it if you want to. You know, there's just a lot of work. And, I mean, the broken window theory, we probably all have heard this at some point. I mean, if one thing doesn't get addressed in a timely manner, then other things kind of build up. Before you know it, we're left with this huge task of, I don't even know where to begin. You know, so yes, there needs to be more accountability. We do need a memorandum of understanding. We need a plan put forth so that we're all on the same page and get working on it, and hopefully we can get it taken care of.
Well, I think something that would help is, obviously, you're one person. I think it would help if you and Kim would hire whoever you need to hire to take a huge.
I did recently hire another assistant who has been helping me keep like the workload and things like that, so it's helping with some of the tasks that it was just, you know, 17 things in one day. I'm only able to do 5. You know, and having that extra hands has been helping to try to keep some of those lawnmowers, especially those empty lots like the ones in the back that were getting out of control, where it was just everything happening and all the metal and all those pins and stuff that were sticking out from the anchors. We're able to try to keep that more under control. Now we're looking at removing those anchors out of there, things like that. We finally found a way to actually get them out, because once those things go in, they are really hard to get back out. So, but we found a way that we can make it work, and we're trying to move forward on some of those things to be able to maintain those lots a little better.
Well, we will, I know we're running here long on time here, so we'll have a staff report back at the next meeting, and I'll keep in touch with Lisa and Diane, and we'll keep in touch. So thank you guys. Thanks for being here.
We appreciate all your comments and all your help.
Thanks for all your help with the cats too over the years. Appreciate it.
I've got 3 right now on my live traps that they're fixed already. Mary's already got them fixed. We just have to get them taped down so we can find homes for them.
Thank you.
Cats.
Thanks, Jamie. We'll be in touch too.
Thanks, Jamie.
And I'll follow up with Kim as well. So thank you.
I do want to say real quick, Jamie, before you leave, is I don't want to sound like I'm ganging up or on you. I hope you won't think that. 'Cause I have worked with you a few times, and you've done a great job. I just think that we just need more hands over there. That's probably between you and Kim, I guess. But we just need more people over there to help, because it's a lot of work for just you.
And it's gonna happen one way or another, so as we, you know, is it, you know, something that we can get through, or is that something that we have to come in and you have a large number that Kim has to deal with?
Well, we appreciate,
Yeah,
well,
so-
we appreciate him,
Yeah.
Jamie,
Yep.
being here tonight, and Kim.
Yep.
I know that there's a lack of action on some of these issues, but at least I'm getting a response, because that, a lot of times is half the battle is getting a response. So we'll just keep working at it and, you
Yeah,
know,
I think it's
get an
like the
agreement
council
put
says, I
together.
think is once you get it cleaned up and you start
That nice
getting it to the
foundation.
point where it's maintainable, then it's gonna be easier. But
Yep.
getting into that, you may need, you know, some extra push and help, so. All right, thanks. Keep it up,
Thanks,
don't
Jamie.
stop. So, thanks, Jamie. City administrator.
Okay, I will hurry,
You got
guys.
5
I can
minutes.
talk fast. All right,
Ready?
so we've got the year-to-date expense and revenue report, employee leave balances. We got a mailer from Excel Energy. They're gonna be putting together their, final report by the end of October, which will include summaries from all the hearings they held, findings of fact and conclusions, recommendations.
How set is that line that's in the packet?
I don't know. This is the first I've gotten any communication since I submitted, our concern. So, hopefully we'll get more
As you
information.
guys see that, it kind of comes down to Eagle Lake and across. And we really don't want a high transmission line just north of 14 and that potential, you know, expansion into that. So if, I don't know
We
how
did
much-
submit a comment with our concerns, by the deadline, so that should be reflected in there. But I will do some more checking. I just got that in the mail, put it on here, but I'll, see what I can find
Thanks.
out. We already addressed the trail project, fire contracts with townships. So, last year we went with the automatic renewal provision, because there was a lot of stuff up in the air with the fire hall being talked about. And now that we are gonna be, the city's purchasing a new fire truck, I do think it would be a good time to get a subcommittee from the council and then the fire department, chief, assistant chief, and sit down and start negotiations for next year. Because now we actually have a tangible number to say, look, we are getting this ladder truck, it is benefiting you, your insurance rates, and, you know, they need to come to the table. That's what our request is gonna be when we go to negotiate. But, so with that, just need to start thinking about, getting a subcommittee, and my goal would be, let's get through the end of the year, and then look at, you know, January, February, kind of start getting some meetings scheduled. RCCIP update, we're, just continuing to meet, met with the school, got an update on the, renovations that are gonna be taking place this summer. Basically, the school representative said the, school will be offline this summer. They're gonna be putting in, AC throughout the building. They're gonna be doing the renovations associated with the classrooms that'll be available for childcare. And, that there will be, no programming at the school. We did ask specifically about ACEs, and they said, yep, it will be coming back. It's just, there's no programming available at the school this summer. And so we just recommended to them to please get ahead of that with the messaging, let parents know, and, you know, just don't drop any surprises on people, as sometimes has happened in the past. So far, that was a good meeting, and looking forward to seeing some more communications from them here shortly. And then the mayor and I have continued to meet with the superintendent and the school board chair, try to talk about ways we can work together to promote the elementary school. Next item, leaf collection, that'll be starting here on October 13th. Fall cleanup is October 18th. And we have the Minnesota House Capital Investment Committee will be coming to Eagle Lake on October 23rd as part of their bonding request tour. And then I just have one other item. We got a request from a resident, that had some concerns with children biking, walking, and coming off of the little kind of walking trail onto LeSueur Avenue, and then also onto Linda Drive, Peggy Lane, and wanting to know if the city could put either paint some signs letting people know, you know, watch ahead for vehicles, or put some signage up. So I think it was a very good, you know, reasonable request, and Public Works dropped off a catalog for me to look at signs. I might hand it back to Public Works and have Public Works figure out what signs they want. It wasn't Public Works Director Hartman that dropped this off on my desk. But we have a park board meeting too on Thursday, so we'll probably talk about this. And then we also need to revisit the signage down at the park, because we haven't gotten that up yet. And then, you know, any painting on the parking lot that we need to do for handicapped accessibility stuff. So with that, I know I kind of talked fast, but that's all I've got, unless you guys got any questions for me. So.
Any questions for Administrator Brolin? All right, councilmember reports, anyone? Okay.
Administrator Brumlin kind of updated on anything I would add.
All right, so I don't have anything either. Announcements, regular council meetings, November 3rd, EDA 23rd of October, Park Board the 9th, October 9th, and then Planning Commission on the 20th. So I think we just look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All right, we're out. Perfect, thanks to everybody.